You know, sometimes the truth hits you not in a blaze of glory, but in a whisper from a doorway. I spent 4 years with someone who, looking back, loved my six-pack more than she ever loved me. And I didn't truly figure that out until I was standing frozen in my own hallway, listening to her tell a friend I was too fat to marry. My name is Ben, and that's how I finally understood Chloe never actually loved me at all. It started so differently, so full of promise. We met when I was 23, fresh out of college, diving into my first real job at a tech startup in Nashville. Honestly, I was in the best shape of my life then because I had nothing else to do but work and hit the gym. I was that guy, morning runs before work, meticulously meal prepping on Sundays, even those ridiculous gym selfies that, let's be honest, got way too many likes. Chloe noticed me at a coffee shop near my office. She worked in marketing for some boutique agency, and she just came up to me. Complimented my build, asked if I competed. Within 2 weeks, we were inseparable. Looking back, it was almost jarring how much she talked about my appearance. Like it was my most valuable trait. She'd go on about how I looked like I walked off a magazine cover, how all her friends were so jealous she was with me. And at the time, I thought it was sweet. I thought, wow, she's really proud to be with me. She posted us everywhere, Instagram stories, Facebook photos, always angled so my arms or shoulders were visible. Always with captions about couple goals or her king. Her comment sections would just blow up with fire emojis and heart eyes. I really thought we were building something genuine. But here's what I missed. She never once posted about my personality, my sense of humor, how I treated her. It was always about aesthetics. By year 2, I started getting serious. Dropping hints about moving in together, talking about what kind of house we'd want someday. She was always enthusiastic, but vague, you know? Yes, definitely, when the timing is right. But never anything concrete. Year 3 rolled around, and I brought up marriage directly over dinner at this Mediterranean bistro we loved. She smiled, but immediately deflected. Said we were still young, needed to focus on careers, building savings. That there was no rush since we were basically married already. And I accepted that. It made some sense, right? Then year 4 came, and all her friends were getting engaged. Ring photos, wedding plans everywhere. When I mentioned it, she dismissed them. Said they were rushing, insecure, that marriage didn't mean anything without financial stability. Which, again, seemed reasonable, except she never defined stable enough. I mean, if someone keeps moving the goalpost on commitment, what are they really waiting for? Then everything changed. I needed surgery. I'd been having this persistent pain in my lower abdomen for months. Ignored it like an idiot because I was busy, figured it was just stress. One night, it got so bad I ended up in the ER. Complicated hernia. Required immediate surgical repair. The surgery went fine, but the recovery was brutal in ways I wasn't prepared for. Pain medication made me foggy, tired. For months of no heavy lifting, no intense exercise. Between the meds, the pain, and the depression from suddenly being unable to do the one thing that made me feel good about myself, I spiraled. I couldn't work out, couldn't move. Most evenings were spent on the couch watching TV, eating takeout because cooking felt like too much effort. Chloe wasn't exactly stepping up to help with meals. The weight came on faster than I expected, maybe 35 pounds over 7 months. Visible abs became a soft stomach, a rounder face. And Chloe's entire energy towards me just shifted. At first, it was small comments disguised as jokes. Little digs about me enjoying those recovery meals a little too much. Suggesting maybe it was time to think about getting back to the gym. I'd laugh it off, explain I was still in pain, still doing physical therapy, that my doctor said to ease back slowly. But she kept pushing. By month 8, she wasn't joking anymore. Pointed comments about how I looked in photos, can we not post this one, when she really meant I looked heavier. She started pulling away physically, less affection, less intimacy, more time on her phone or out with friends. When I tried to talk, she'd brush it off, say she was stressed with work. But I could feel the real reason hanging in the air between us. Her friends started asking questions too, apparently. She told me one night people were wondering what happened to me, said it like it was my fault for embarrassing her. I tried explaining again, walked her through the medical situation, the chronic pain, the mental health struggle of losing my confidence. She listened with this blank expression, then dismissed it. Everyone has problems, Ben. That's not an excuse to just give up on yourself. Like my literal medical recovery was some kind of character flaw. The distance between us became a massive, cold gap. Barely talking, barely touching, just existing in the same apartment like roommates who didn't particularly like each other. I started feeling like some failed project she'd invested in that didn't pan out. Then came the night that changed everything. We were supposed to have dinner at home, actually sit down, reconnect. I brought up the future again, because I still loved her. Still wanted to believe we could work through it. I said something like, "Where do you see us in a year? Are we heading toward marriage?" She put down her fork. Looked at me with an expression that was half pity, half disgust. "I can't be tied to someone who let himself go like this, Ben." Flat out. No sugarcoating. I sat there stunned, processing what she'd just said. She continued, explaining she needed a partner she could be proud of, someone who takes care of himself. And right now, I wasn't that person. In that moment, I realized everything I'd suspected was true. I wasn't a person to her. I was an accessory. A status symbol. Something to show off when I looked good, and hide when I didn't. But that wasn't even the worst part. A few days later, I was home early from a doctor's appointment. I heard her on the phone in the bedroom, laughing with someone. I stopped in the hallway when I heard my name. She was talking to one of her friends, I don't know which one. "Honestly," she said, "I can't marry him like this. Can you imagine the wedding photos? I'd look like I settled for whatever I could get." Her friend must have said something, because Chloe laughed. "He got fat after his surgery. And I get it was medical, but it's been months and he's still making excuses. I'm not going to tie myself to someone who doesn't even try." I stood there, frozen. Listening to the woman I'd spent 4 years with reduce our entire relationship to my appearance and her social standing. I didn't burst in, didn't confront her right then. I just walked back to the living room quietly and sat down. And something inside me fundamentally shifted. That's when I understood it. Chloe had never loved me. She'd loved the version of me that made her look good. And the second that version disappeared, she couldn't wait to trade me in. After that, I made a decision. The next morning, I confronted her. Asked her straight up if she really felt that way about me. Instead of apologizing or showing any remorse, she tried to spin it like she was doing me a favor. Said she was just trying to motivate me, wanted me to be the best version of myself. Then came the line that made everything crystal clear. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Lose the weight. Then we can talk about marriage." Like our future together was some kind of reward I had to earn by meeting her physical standards. I realized right then that I was done trying to win her approval. But I also realized something else. I did want to get back in shape. Not for her. Not to save this dying relationship. But because I missed feeling strong and healthy and like myself. So I told her, "Fine, I'll work on it." But inside, I knew I was doing this for completely different reasons than she thought. That same week, I moved most of my stuff to my buddy Liam's place. Told Chloe I needed space to focus on my health. Honestly, I just couldn't stand being around her anymore. Couldn't stand the judgmental looks, the cold shoulders, the feeling like I had to earn basic human decency. I started researching how to safely get back into fitness after surgery. Found this physical therapist, Marr, who specialized in post-surgical rehab. When we met, he didn't judge me or comment on my weight. He just asked about my pain levels, my range of motion, my goals. He created this program that started super slow, stretching, light movement, building up my core strength. He kept reminding me that recovery was a marathon, not a sprint. It felt good to have someone in my corner who actually cared about my well-being instead of just how I looked. I also started seeing a nutritionist because I knew I couldn't just crash diet my way back. I needed to do this right. She helped me figure out meal planning that worked with my schedule and budget. The first few weeks were brutal, not because of the physical work, but because I was breaking years of bad habits. But slowly, things started to change. I'd wake up at 5 a.m., hit the gym before work. It was empty and quiet and kind of lonely. But there was something peaceful about it. Like I was doing this just for me, no audience, no performance. The first time I managed a full workout without any pain, I actually teared up a little in my car afterward. It felt like getting a piece of myself back. Around week 6, I'd lost maybe 10 pounds. Nothing dramatic, but I could feel the difference. And that's when Chloe started reaching out more. I was still staying at Liam's most nights, but I'd go back to the apartment to grab clothes. Suddenly, she was interested again. Texting me during the day, asking how the gym went, suggesting dinner, touching my arm. She started posting about us again on social media, thinking of you with old photos. It was so transparent it almost made me laugh. By month 3, I'd lost about 25 pounds and was honestly in better shape than before the surgery. Chloe was acting like nothing bad had ever happened between us. She wanted to meet up more, wanted to talk about us, kept hinting I should move back. One night, she called and said she wanted to take me somewhere special. Said we needed to celebrate my progress and talk about our future. Would you go to that dinner if you were me? Knowing what I knew about her? I almost said no, but part of me needed to see this through. Needed to confirm what I already suspected about her motives. We met at this upscale steakhouse downtown Nashville, somewhere we'd never been. She showed up looking incredible, wearing a dress I'd complimented once, hair and makeup done like she was going to a gala. We sat down, and she was extra affectionate, holding my hand, laughing at my stories. I just watched her perform, because that's what it was. A performance. Then she started talking about how proud she was of me, how I'd proven I could commit to something, how I'd become the man she always knew I could be. There was this weird, rehearsed quality to her words. I realized with this sinking feeling what was building here. She thought this was the reconciliation dinner. Thought that now that I looked good again, we'd just slide back into the relationship like the last year hadn't happened. Like she hadn't abandoned me when I needed support most. I excused myself to the bathroom and just stood there, looking in the mirror. Total clarity. I'd lost the weight. Done the work. Proven whatever she thought I needed to prove. But none of it changed the fundamental truth that she'd only ever valued me for my appearance. When I came back, she was fiddling with her napkin, nervous energy radiating off her. Before she could launch into whatever came next in her script, I told her we needed to talk honestly about us. She lit up, probably thinking I was about to say I wanted to move back in. But instead, I started asking questions. What do you love about me, Chloe? What do you value in our relationship? Why do you want to be with me? Every single answer came back to surface-level stuff. How good we looked together. How I motivated her to stay fit. How people admired us as a couple. How proud she was of my transformation. Nothing about my personality, my values, how I treated her, the life we built over 4 years. And she didn't even seem to realize how shallow it all sounded. Then I asked her point blank, what would happen if I got sick again? If I had another medical issue? If life happened, and I couldn't maintain this physique forever? She actually hesitated. Had to think about it before saying, of course I'd support you. But I could see in her eyes she was lying. See her mentally calculating if that was the right answer. I knew right then. I couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't spend my life with someone who saw me as a reflection of her own status rather than an actual human being. The dinner ended awkwardly. Her confused, me just trying to get through the night. When we left, she tried to suggest coming back to her place. I told her I needed time to think and I'd call her soon. I didn't call. 2 weeks of silence passed, and Chloe must have been losing her mind because she started ramping up the pressure. Texting about how we needed to talk, how she had something important planned, how she wanted to celebrate us properly. Finally, she called and practically begged me to meet her for one more dinner. Said she'd made reservations somewhere special. I agreed because I knew I needed to end this cleanly. Needed closure. She picked this trendy rooftop place overlooking downtown Nashville, somewhere we'd gone on our first anniversary. I knew exactly what she was planning because she'd been dropping hints all week about big moments and new chapters. I let her think I was clueless. Let her get excited about whatever she had planned, because I needed to see this through to understand, once and for all, that I was making the right choice. We got to the restaurant, and she was practically glowing. Kept touching my arm, laughing too loud at things that weren't that funny. I could see her checking her purse every few minutes like she had something precious hidden inside. The waiter brought our drinks, and she launched into this whole speech about my transformation, about how inspired she was by my dedication, how I'd become the man she always knew I could be. Every word just confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't celebrating me as a person. She was celebrating that I'd returned to being the accessory she wanted, the trophy boyfriend who made her look good in photos. Then she reached into her purse. And I knew this was it. She was about to pull out a ring, or push for some grand romantic gesture. Before she could say another word, I just said it. No. Flat. Simple. She froze, hand still in her purse. This confused smile stuck on her face like she'd misheard me. "What do you mean?" she asked. "What are you saying no to?" I told her I was saying no to all of it. To the performance, to the conditional love, to spending my life with someone who only valued me when I looked a certain way. I told her I'd heard every cruel thing she'd said to her friends. Seen how she treated me when I was at my lowest. Watched her check back in only when I became visually acceptable again. And I was done pretending that was love. The confusion on her face shifted to anger real quick. She hissed at me that I was embarrassing her, that people were watching, that we needed to talk about this at home. But I was done talking in private where she could manipulate the narrative and rewrite history. I stood up, put cash on the table for my half of the bill, and walked out while she sat there, frozen. I could feel every eye in that restaurant on us. But for once, I didn't care what anyone thought. I only cared about my own self-respect. My phone started blowing up before I even got to my car. Texts from her mom, from her friends. All saying basically the same thing, that I was ungrateful, that I'd humiliated her after everything she'd done for me, that I owed her an explanation at minimum. The entitlement in those messages was almost funny. Like I owed her something for the privilege of her conditional affection. I turned my phone on silent and drove straight to Liam's place. I knew I needed to be around someone who actually knew me, who'd seen how Chloe treated me and understood why I had to walk away. Liam took one look at my face and just handed me a beer. Let me sit on his couch and decompress without asking a million questions. After about an hour, I finally told him everything. He listened, then said something that hit me hard. "She loved your abs more than she ever loved you, man." Hearing someone else say it out loud made it feel more real somehow. Made me realize I wasn't crazy for feeling the way I did. I crashed at Liam's that night. The next morning, I knew I had to face it eventually. Had to get the rest of my stuff from the apartment and make this official. I called my brother, Daniel, who lives about an hour outside Nashville, and asked if he'd come help me move. Not because I thought Chloe would get violent, but because I knew she'd try to manipulate me if I went alone, try to cry or apologize, make promises she had no intention of keeping. Daniel agreed immediately. Said he'd never liked her anyway, and he was glad I was finally seeing clearly. We drove over to the apartment around noon on a weekday when I figured Chloe would be at work. I used my key, planning to just pack my clothes and documents and get out fast. But what I found inside changed everything. The place looked like someone had a complete breakdown. Pillows thrown off the couch. Pictures of us knocked over. Empty wine bottles on the coffee table. And there, on the kitchen table, was her laptop, sitting open. I wasn't planning to snoop. Wasn't even thinking about it. But the screen was right there, facing me. And I saw it. It was open to a dating app profile. Already created. Recent photos of her. Filters set to athletic build and six-figure income. My stomach just dropped. I couldn't help myself. I scrolled through. Saw messages. Full conversations with other guys that went back months. Back to when I was still recovering from surgery, at my heaviest. She was complaining about me to complete strangers, saying she was stuck with someone who'd let himself go, asking guys if they wanted to meet up for coffee or drinks, fishing for validation while I was struggling through the worst medical and mental health crisis of my life. Some of these messages were from 8, 9 months ago. When I was at my absolute lowest point, couldn't work out, in constant pain, felt like I'd lost myself completely. And she was already shopping for my replacement. Daniel saw my face and asked what was wrong. I just turned the laptop toward him, let him see what I was seeing. He got angry in a way I rarely saw from my brother. Started saying she was garbage, that I deserved better, that we should expose her online. But I told him, no. I didn't need revenge. Didn't need to drag her publicly. I just needed proof for myself that leaving was the right call. Needed evidence in case she tried to rewrite history later and make me the villain. I took photos of the conversations on my phone, screenshots of her dating profile. Documentation of exactly who she was when she thought I'd never find out. Then I grabbed my clothes, my documents, my gaming console, anything that mattered, and we loaded up Daniel's truck. We were almost done, probably 15 minutes from leaving forever, when Chloe showed up. She must have gotten some kind of alert that someone was in the apartment. Or maybe her mom had driven by. She came storming in, demanding to know what I thought I was doing, saying I had no right to be there, that I was invading her privacy. The irony of that last part almost made me laugh. I stayed calm. Told her I'd seen the dating apps. Seen the messages to other guys. Seen that she'd been lining up my replacement since before I'd even started losing weight. And she actually tried to justify it. You weren't being the partner I needed, Ben. What was I supposed to do? Like her emotional cheating was somehow my fault for being injured, for being human, for not maintaining the aesthetic she required. That's when I really let her have it. Not yelling, but cold and clear in a way I'd never spoken to her before. I told her she'd called me an embarrassment when I was recovering from surgery. Told her friends she couldn't marry someone who let himself go. Measured my entire worth by my appearance. Checked out of our relationship the second I stopped being Instagram-worthy. I told her I'd lost the weight, but more importantly, I was losing her. And honestly, she taught me exactly what kind of partner I never wanted to be with again. Someone who loved conditionally. Who treated people like accessories. Who abandoned ship the moment things got difficult. She tried the tears. Then the whole "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it" routine. Reaching for my arm like physical touch would somehow undo months of emotional cruelty. But I stepped back. Told her we were done. Officially over. Completely finished. I said I'd already moved out weeks ago, this was just collecting the last of my stuff. And if she tried to contact me again, I'd block her on everything. Daniel and I walked out with her standing in the doorway, still trying to get the last word, still trying to make herself the victim in a story where she'd been the villain all along. As we drove away, I felt this massive weight lift that had nothing to do with the gym or the diet or the physical transformation. 3 months later, I'm living in my own apartment in a different part of Nashville, still working out, but because I genuinely enjoy it now. Because it makes me feel good and strong and healthy, not because I'm trying to prove anything to anyone or meet someone else's standards. I'm doing well at work, got a promotion, and I've actually started seeing a therapist to work through some of the damage that relationship did to my self-worth. I'm learning what healthy love actually looks like. I ran into Mark, my physical therapist, at a coffee shop a few weeks ago. We got to talking, and he introduced me to his sister, Sarah, who works in graphic design and just moved to Nashville. We exchanged numbers, grabbed coffee once. And there might be something there, eventually. Something that feels easy and genuine and based on actual compatibility rather than how we look together in photos. Someone who only loves you when you meet their aesthetic standards doesn't actually love you. They love the idea of you. Real love shows up during your worst moments, not just your highlight reel. And it never requires you to earn basic human decency through your appearance. What do you think? Would you have gone to that final dinner?